And welcome to today's episode of Make Today Mammoth, where we are going to be helping business owners and entrepreneurs. And as a special bonus, if you are a single parent, single dad, be able to create what we call an owned experience where you get to run the business of your dreams, but being able to run it on your terms while creating freedoms for yourself, freedoms of time, freedoms of finances, so that you get to place the things that matter most to you front and center in your life, which I imagine is time with your family, with your children, with your loved ones, to create experiences that you will remember for a lifetime. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Make Today Mammoth. And I am your host, Dallas Hardcastle, and I am super excited for you to be here for today's episode, which is all about time collapsing. I absolutely love to talk about time collapsing because it's one of my favorite topics in that it allows you to take time back. It allows you to be able to maximize the amount of time that you have for your day, for your life, so that you can place the things front and center that matter the very most to you, to be able to create the time and the financial freedoms that are so dear and important to some of us. Thank you very much. If this is your very first time listening or watching us, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, Make Today Mammoth, or if you're listening to us here, thank you so very much for coming in and investing a little bit of your time to be with us. If this is or isn't your first time, we appreciate you being here. And if you would please consider maybe wanting to subscribe to the channel, but also going over and taking just 1 minute to give us a 5-star review. The 5-star reviews are so important because they help other people locate us in the searches, in the algorithms. Every time we receive one of these 5-star ratings, it pushes us up in the algorithms, which means other people that are maybe just like you, that are really searching for a real solution, a real show, a real person that's helping them talk the real talk, to do the real things that really matter, so that they can have a day that they're starting to stack up a series of days that are mammoth, a series of days that feel great. Finances, time, family, so that you are able to create this thing, the owned experience where you get to own the freedoms of your time and your finances to create a life that you just absolutely adore and that others see. And they are just envious of this amazing thing you've created, but it's because you've understood now how to make it happen. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about time collapsing. Let's get right into it. And I do have some notes over here, so I want to make sure I can actually see all of my great notes that I put into this for today. So there's a great saying, which is the map is not the territory. What does that mean? Well, sometimes we look at a picture of a map, right? It's almost like sometimes it can be a blueprint. Sometimes it can be a framework, but let's just make it a map. And sometimes we look at the map and we think the map is the thing, right? We see a map of our state, a map of our town, of our city, of the mountain, of a lake. And we think that is what the territory is. But then when we actually get there, we see that the map is not the territory. It's just kind of this vague overview. It's a description of the approximations of about what it looks like, what it feels like, what the experience is. But the territory is topographical, it's movement, it's trees, it's wind, sometimes it's rain, sometimes it's different temperatures, sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's noisy, sometimes it's quiet, sometimes there's buildings, sometimes there's just nature. All of these different elementals change what it actually looks like. So when we can walk out and see for ourselves with our eyes and ears and our smells and touch and feel what these things are, we can begin to navigate through this more accurately. When we realize for ourselves how we affect everything within our world, how we affect the experience, meaning that you and I could walk into that exact same place the territory within the map, and you and I can have two completely different experiences. Although it's nature with the trees at the lake on a breezy day and it's 56 degrees, you and I may have completely different experiences. You could be in this total state of gratitude and appreciation and happiness and bliss. And you've just had the most amazing week, an amazing day, and all things are going perfectly for you. And you're just cherishing this life and just loving this experience. And you think this is one of the most magical places in the world. And meanwhile, I could be angry and cynical, and I've had a bad day and a bad week, and I'm just angry and I'm resentful and nothing's going my way. And I think this is stupid. And oh my gosh, feel all the wind. And oh, it's so cold out here. And I didn't wear enough clothes. And oh my gosh, I hate being out in all this junk. And I feel like it's starting to mist. And look, it's probably going to rain any moment now. And there's nothing to do out here, right? It's like so different. So to be able to accurately collapse time, there's a few steps I want to share with you that allows you and I to be able to make sure that we are taking ourselves into this account, right? So it's not the map necessarily, but it's more of the territory because it's individualized, the thing that we can do that allows for your success, which will be different than my success. Does that make sense? So number one is, how do you see yourself in this world? And here's the question. Who must I become in order to make all of these goals happen naturally in my life? Right? So here's the difference between the internal and the external. Most of us, if we're a business owner, if we're an entrepreneur, we get this stuff backwards almost all the time. I know for years I got this stuff backwards, is we're so busy trying to change all of the circumstance. We're so busy trying to get the circumstance to change. Well, if I had more money, if I had a better, nicer car, if I lived in a bigger, better place, if I had this, if I had that, if I was surrounded by this, if I was making this much money, if my account looked this big, if I knew these people, if I had these relationships, if I had the time to work out, if I had the time to eat better, to do better, to have more energy. But meanwhile, that's the circumstance. But it's always first us, then the circumstance. This is huge, and I want to make sure this one really lands. So the question, who do I must become? Who must I become means that I am required to create these changes in order to exact them into my circumstances. In order for my circumstances to change, I must change. Gosh, I hope this is landing on you as importantly as it is, because this is like the level 10 quadruple X asterisk, hugely important thing. Who must we become? Who must you become? Must you get more clarity? Must you have more gratitude and appreciation? Must you have more clarity, maybe through daily meditation? Must you feel better about yourself through those daily walks? Must you feel stronger and more energized by that workout, that strength training? Must you feel more appreciative and more grateful, maybe through your journaling? Must you feel like you can make it through your day with more of this, with the foods that you eat, with the energy that you're actively putting into your body, with these live foods, with the hydration, with the vitamins and the minerals that we're taking good care of, with maybe getting blood work done to make sure that we're healthy? Who must you become to be able to create these other things? Okay, this is huge. All right. Number 2, create a clear value statement for yourself so that you understand what really matters most. So that you consistently ask yourself if you're doing the work that's consistent with your core values. What does that mean? That value statement essentially is a way of being able to be aligned with yourself. Here's a cheat code for you. Here's a hack. Whenever we create a business, if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, whenever we create a business and it is in contradiction, it's not in alignment with our core values, we begin to self-sabotage. We begin to find very creative ways to hurt ourselves, to slow ourselves down, to procrastinate, to push off, to not do. We find all of these amazingly creative ways to stall our own successes because inside it just doesn't feel good. Inside it just doesn't feel right to us. We become incongruent. And when you and I are incongruent, we can do everything in our power to believe that we can push through this thing, that we can grind through it, that we can outwork it, that we can exert, just brute force and just get ourselves through it. But friends, I've just never seen this be the solution that will work for any period of time except for the extreme short period of time. For some, it's days. Maybe if you're just the strongest of the strong, you can maybe go a few months, but eventually you're going to crumble, you're going to collapse, you're going to burn out because you're just in conflict every single day. You're in conflict with what you're doing because the business that you've created, the deliverable you're doing, the people you're trying to help, it's in constant conflict. It's incongruent with your core values. And when that's the case, you're just never going to be able to make it. Okay. So number 3, get in touch with your belief system so that you can figure out if your beliefs are real. In other words, I want you to really pay special attention to your beliefs. How do we do that? Well, we begin to go through our day with awareness. We begin to find out that we have maybe a belief about what success looks like, a belief about how difficult it is to have the success, to get a customer, to make a sale, to grow your account, to make more money, to get into a bigger house, to drive a different car, to take a bigger vacation, to have a better or different relationship with your son or daughter, with your spouse, with your loved one, with your parents, to be able to give more. You think it's hard to be able to give more. When we begin to have these beliefs, you may have heard these said a different way, but this is effectively, these are stories that we so often are telling ourselves. And what these stories are is that these are often things that are created, and they're almost always created at an earlier age in our lives, where that story, that belief, perhaps served a real purpose at that time. But this could be a story that we created a year ago, 10 years ago. We could have created it when you were 5 or 6 years old. It's super common that we create something at that time where maybe there was a stress, maybe there was trauma, anxiety, disappointment, sadness, grief, where we needed to create a story, a belief around something to protect ourselves, to help shield ourselves from the outside world, from maybe future disappointments. So we tell ourselves a story that, oh, that's just for people who have that background. That's just for people with huge audiences. Oh, that's just with people that have a lot of money to invest. Oh, that's just for people that are born in these certain places, so they're already rubbing elbows with these certain people. Oh, that's just for people with these degrees. Oh, that's just for people that already own a bunch of properties. Oh, that's just for people that already have a bunch of money invested in these areas. Right? We have all of these stories that give us then the platform to actually begin to believe our own bullcrap. That way we can justify our actions or lack of actions. Does that make sense? So this is a way to be able to get our mind and our body in a place where we can begin to exact the very changes that are most needed for ourselves so that we can really make these big changes in our lives. So that we can begin to understand that these old beliefs, this belief system that we have, they could be a series of 2 or 3. They could be a series of 5 or 10 beliefs, old stories that just no longer serve us. So now we want to move towards being able to get our mind and our bodies into a place where now we can adapt these new beliefs, because these new beliefs that can empower us and can change our trajectory, the level of gratitude and appreciation we have, the level of belief that success is right around the corner, the belief that this is our time, the belief that now I'm going to be able to be in a place emotionally where I can build this relationship better than I ever would have in my entire life. The belief that these past 2 or 3 years of absolute struggle and heartache are going to give me the very foundation and the story that I need to be able to show others where they can empathize with where I've been, because I've now been in such a place of struggle that now as I'm rising up, that they can really believe in me and where I've been, rather than just, well, I've always been successful my whole life. I was born successful. I continue to be successful in everything I do that's successful. That's not where people will connect to you and bond to you. It's through that story of struggle. And now it allows you to be able to be the most relatable. And now you can really influence others and help them the best. And then number 4, question your emotional state to see how you feel. Here's a great question to ask yourself. What are the most common emotional states, both empowering and disempowering, that I experience on a daily basis? Why do we ask this? This is something where the inside work, doing the deep work, the inside work matters so much. I can promise you that I went through a state of years back of heartache and challenge and trauma. It was places of getting to the deepest, darkest lows I could imagine. Things that were going on emotionally, mentally, family, finances. We're talking bankruptcies and foreclosures. It was awful. With this came these deep, hard emotional states that really got anchored in, right? They really got set into my neurology. Well, unfortunately, those got anchored in so deeply that then months later, after these things were turning around, years later, after things were turning around, I would still be very prone to fall back into those. Very prone to fall back in. Just see something and it would just make me sad. I didn't know why. It just made me sad. I would just get frustrated. Like things were good, but I would just get frustrated, angered, feelings of unworthiness, feelings of guilt, feelings of blame towards myself. These would just get triggered because of things and events that had happened months and years previously. So I want you to really be able to pay close attention to what these are for you. Like as you go through your day, do just little things kind of get you triggered to think that now I feel sad, or I feel unworthy, or I feel ungrateful, or I feel like the things are going against me. I get anger, I get hatred, I get anxious. These things are very likely based on previous emotional states that have happened years back. So often we allow these old states to dictate our actions, what we're going to do, how we're going to move forward. And once we begin to really take note, and these a lot of times, and I'm talking about paying attention to your beliefs and how you fit into this world and these emotional states, being congruent with what it is that you're doing, make sure your core values are really being paid attention to. These are things that it's literally sometimes it's just notes on your phone. Maybe it's just writing it down or journaling, or just being aware of them as you're going through your day. Because as we do these things, as we begin to recognize the fact that these are emotional states, like, why am I sad about that? Oh, that's because I kind of tied it to this thing. And years ago, this thing made me sad. Like it could be the weirdest connection, right? We can have these weird connections, but just something made me sad. It's like, why does that make me sad? When I watch that, why does that make me sad? Oh, well, that's tied into this time 7 or 8 years ago, back when this thing occurred. So when that thing occurred, it made me think of my daughter. So every single time there was any kind of a thing with my daughter, or I wasn't around my daughter, I just got very sad. So now when I'm not with my daughter, I feel sad. And it's like, does that serve me? Does that serve you? So I want you to really begin to take notes. Really, maybe if you journal, begin to journal and write down and really get an awareness of what are these things that are really holding you back, so that if these emotional states aren't where you want to be, we can begin to really pay attention to our mind and body and grow into a place where these states no longer will hinder us and hold us back, but be the state that now, that emotion that allows us to grow, the empowering one, so that we can be and do better and help more people. Friends, I hope this has been super helpful for you today. And I really hope that you will take a look at these, because these are the ways to be able to best collapse time. Because when we are in alignment with our best self, when our beliefs, our core values, our emotional state, our energies, when these things are aligned, when we're no longer allowing past trauma, past emotions, past stories, past outdated beliefs to affect the way we operate, the way we go through the world, we begin to act much more efficiently. We begin to remain in alignment. We are congruent. We're healthy, we're happy, we're strong, we're driven, we're excited. We become more easily impassioned, more easily feeling grateful and appreciative, because our energies and our state and our beliefs and our emotions are all lined up. So everything begins to feel good together with one another. So we're stacking all of these wins. We're stacking all of these things on top of each other, which creates that presence of energy and excitement and forward moving, so that the freedoms, the finances, the time, our relationships, all of these things begin to come together and to work in concert with one another and not against one another. Friends, again, my name is Dallas Hardcastle, and as always, make today mammoth. I appreciate you being here, and we will talk with you soon.